Chosen one. Pause for a moment. The noise of the world may still move around you, but heaven just fell silent for your soul. This moment is not random. You are here because a divine whisper has found you again, louder, clearer, as if heaven itself says, "Rise. Tonight is your hour." Number. You have walked through seasons that felt like delay, but not a single day was wasted. Every tear, every night you whispered, "I still believe," in the dark. Every disappointment, heaven recorded them all. The silence wasn't punishment, it was refinement. Diamonds are made in hidden places, and so are the chosen. There was once a chosen one like you, a soul waiting, misunderstood, overlooked. She knocked on doors that never opened, prayed prayers that seemed unanswered. One night, as she lay in the quiet, a voice stirred within. "You are not forgotten. You are concealed." The next morning, her world began to change. She learned the secret every chosen soul must face. When God wants to reveal His glory through someone, He often begins by hiding them. You are standing at that same threshold, the line between concealment and unveiling. Every wound that tried to break you has become proof of your endurance. All of heaven looks at you now, not as someone weak, but as a warrior awakening from the dust. The voice of God thundered in the book of Job, chapter 33, verse 14. For God speaks once, yea twice, yet man perceives it not. In a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falleth upon men. Tonight, your dreams are not mere visions, they are heaven's language. When the noise fades, the whisper becomes clear. God is opening your ears to instruction, sealing purpose inside your spirit. You are no longer walking as who you were. You are stepping into who you were always meant to be. Picture your soul as a seed buried deep in the soil. The world thought you were buried, but you were being planted. The same ground that covered you will now celebrate your growth. When your sprout breaks through, the world won't call you forgotten. They'll call you chosen. This isn't just encouragement, it's an awakening. You are not reading these words by coincidence. You are being summoned to listen, to rise, to act. Right now, whisper within yourself, "I am ready to hear." Because once you say yes, heaven begins to move. A wind unseen begins to stir around you. Do you feel it? It's the sign that the old ground can no longer contain you. The door ahead has opened, and light is waiting. Not everyone hears this call, but you do, because you were designed to wake before the world does. Hold this moment close. Don't let it fade like another message that passes through your feed. Share this word so it may reach another, chosen one, still lost in the silence. If this resonates in your spirit, comment 444 below as a sign that you have heard the divine signal, and subscribe to stay connected to the journey. Because this is not a one-time word, it's the beginning of your transformation. For when heaven chooses to speak, your heart is always the first place it wants to be heard. And now, chosen one, as you stand in this sacred pause between what was and what will be, feel how heaven rearranges the air around you. Every breath you take now carries instruction. Every heartbeat repeats the rhythm of divine timing. The unseen realms are shifting in your favor, not because you forced them, but because you finally became still enough to hear. You may not realize it yet, but this silence is holy ground. It is here that new strength takes root. Like a lion crouched before the leap, you are gathering divine momentum. What looked like delay was God's way of ensuring your roar would be heard across generations. When you rise, the earth itself will recognize your sound. Remember, chosen ones are never built in comfort. They are sculpted through surrender. Your yes carries weight. It opens portals of possibility that fear once closed. Tonight, that yes echoes beyond you. It touches your bloodline, rewriting patterns that once chained your family to pain. Let hope anchor you as dawn approaches, even the stars dim before sunrise. But not because they lose their light, because something greater begins to shine. You are that light. You are that sunrise. So breathe deeply. Lift your chin. The journey has only begun, and heaven is already applauding your first step. You feel it. Don't you? The quiet shift under your skin. Something sacred is moving. Not loud, not dramatic, but steady, like a slow sunrise melting frost. This is what happens when the mark of the chosen begins to burn within you. It is not seen with eyes, yet everything around you starts to respond to it. People sense it, even if they cannot name it. For years, you may have wondered why you never fit where others seemed comfortable, why certain rooms felt too small, why silence often spoke louder than company. It wasn't rejection, it was recognition. The world could not hold what heaven had marked. The seal upon your spirit demanded a different rhythm, a higher frequency, a calling that only few can bear. When heaven marks a soul, it doesn't come with thunder or spectacle. It comes quietly through pain, surrender, and stripping away of all that's false. You might think you were being broken, but you were being branded, set apart for something eternal. The oil of purpose doesn't rest on untested vessels. It chooses those who have endured the fire without letting their faith burn away. The mark is not superiority, it is stewardship. It means your life is no longer yours alone. Every decision, every word, every thought begins to carry weight. The atmosphere around you shifts because heaven has claimed your destiny. When others walk by sight, you are called to walk by the whisper. When others chase speed, you are called to choose depth. There is a sacred loneliness in this. You'll notice conversations that once excited you now feel hollow. Places that once comforted now echo with emptiness. It's not that you've grown cold, it's that your spirit has outgrown what once contained you. Like a river refusing man-made canals, you are being redirected by divine current toward greater purpose. Imagine a blacksmith marking a blade after it's forged. He presses a heated symbol into the metal, not to destroy it, but to prove its authenticity. That is what God has done in your soul. Every scar, every lesson, every unseen battle, He has turned them into your seal of authenticity. You carry invisible proof that you've survived what others would not have endured. That is your signature in heaven's record. There was once a young man, hidden in a small village, who felt forgotten. While others advanced, he seemed stuck. One night in prayer, he saw a vision, his hands glowing with light. The next morning, nothing around him looked different, but everything within him was. Years later, when his time came, doors opened that logic couldn't explain. The mark had awakened. That is how it works. It waits beneath years of obedience until heaven says, now. When that moment comes, recognition follows. The same people who once dismissed you will suddenly sense something divine in your eyes and feel the pull of reverence without knowing why. According to what is revealed in the book of Exodus, chapter 13, verse 9, "And it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thine hand, and for a memorial between thine eyes, that the Lord's law may be." The mark is not physical, it's spiritual, a reminder of covenant. It whispers through conscience, compassion, and awareness. The Lord's strength moves through you, not to elevate you above others, but to draw them closer to His light through your presence. You may notice storms no longer shake you. Situations that once stirred fear now bring quiet confidence. This is how you know the mark is active. You no longer react as before because you are not who you were. The anointing has settled, the flame burns steady. Yes, every crown carries weight. Every mark has cost. But what heaven places upon you, heaven sustains. You are not meant to bear it alone. The mark is a promise you walk with divine strength. So, move forward, not in fear, but in awareness. The unseen now moves through your every breath. Every step you take leaves spiritual footprints, lighting paths for others who will one day awaken as you did. You are no longer hidden. Though the world may not yet realize it, heaven already recognizes your steps. Every movement releases fragrance into eternity. You've crossed the invisible threshold between preparation and purpose. The mark glows quietly, unseen but undeniable, guiding you toward places your name has already been spoken in advance. So walk gently, yet boldly. The same hand that marked you will lead you. The same light that called you will keep you. Your journey has only begun. The fire has found you. Chosen one, not the kind that destroys, but the kind that refines. You are stepping into the refiner's fire, where gold is proven, not polished. It doesn't always feel holy. Sometimes it feels like loss, like your prayers are hitting a silent sky. But in the unseen, heaven is shaping the outline of your future. Every hardship that once seemed like punishment was preparation. Every closed door, every delay, every heartbreak, each was part of the divine alchemy, transforming you into someone unbreakable. Do you remember the nights you asked, "Why me?" Heaven's answer has always been the same: because I trusted you with the fire. Only those built of eternal material can survive divine testing. The refiner never watches the flame idly. He leans close, studying the metal until he sees his reflection in it. That's what your pain has been doing, burning away what was temporary, so the image of God could shine from your life again. There once was a man who thought his waiting was wasted. He prayed for years, and nothing seemed to change. Then, without warning, life struck him down. His job vanished. His friends disappeared. His heart grew heavy, yet through it all, he never cursed God. One night, he whispered, "Even if you slay me, still I will trust you." And that night, the fire turned from judgment to glory. Within weeks, new beginnings emerged. What he thought was loss had only been purification. That is the nature of the refiner's fire. It doesn't take things from you, it takes things off you. Fear, pride, doubt all melt away until what remains is the truest version of you. The one heaven always saw, the one the world has yet to meet. As the prophet Malachi declared in the sacred writings, chapter 3, verse 3, "He shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, that they may offer unto the Lord an offering in righteousness. This process is not punishment, it is a privilege. You are being prepared to carry purity into a world that worships appearances. Fire is the language of heaven's trust. God could not use you at full strength until he burned away everything false that tried to imitate your purpose. And here is the mystery. Fire and favor arrive together. The same heat that brings tears also brings transformation. The same flame that exposes weakness also awakens power. You are learning that endurance itself is anointed. Even your scars shine differently now. They tell a story of faith that did not die in the waiting. The refiner's fire teaches a truth that comfort never will, that broken things can still glow, that ashes can still rise. That surrender is the highest form of strength. You're not losing your old self, you're being revealed as heaven's design all along. And when you emerge, you won't need to explain your glow. Those who mocked you will simply see it and know. Your silence will speak louder than your defense. Your peace will be your proof. You will no longer chase validation, because refinement replaces the need to be understood. So if this fire still feels fierce, stay in it. Do not escape the process. Every degree of heat is sacred, every spark intentional. The same hands that lit the flame hold the thermostat. He knows exactly how much you can bear and exactly when to pull you out shining. Now, before this moment fades, write this in the comments as a prophetic act. Keep refining me. Because when you declare those words, you're not asking for more pain. You're aligning yourself with purpose. You're saying, I will not run from the flame. I will rise through it. And heaven responds to courage like that. When you type, keep refining me, you are not asking for suffering. You are saying yes to transformation. You are declaring that you trust God's process more than your own comfort. It means you are willing to let his fire remove what no longer belongs: fear, resentment, and every limitation that has disguised itself as safety. Refinement is not endless burning, it is careful shaping. Just as a silversmith never leaves metal unattended, God never leaves you in pain without purpose. The moment he sees his reflection in you, he begins to cool the flame. That's when clarity comes. Peace settles, and strength becomes effortless. So when you whisper those words, you are agreeing with heaven's vision for you. You are saying, do whatever it takes to make me shine. And heaven always honors that courage. There comes a moment when the flame doesn't just cleanse you, it awakens you. Something shifts deep inside. Your spirit begins to remember what it was created for. The voice that once trembled in doubt now begins to carry authority. This is the hour when heaven gives you your voice back. The awakening of authority is not about speaking louder, it's about speaking from alignment. When you speak from the place God called you to, creation listens. Authority is not borrowed, it is built through obedience. You've been trained in silence, forged in storms, humbled in waiting. Those seasons were your classrooms. While others rushed ahead, you were being equipped to speak with weight. Every no you endured carved the shape of wisdom inside you. Every delay added depth to your discernment. The authority that now stirs in your chest was born out of surrender, not ambition. In the early days of your journey, you often thought power was something to achieve, something granted only to the qualified. But you're learning that heaven's authority flows through those who have learned to yield. power does not come from striving, it comes from alignment. When your will bows to divine instruction, heaven's current flows freely through you. You are no longer trying to convince darkness to leave, it recognizes you now. There was once a shepherd who stood in a field, forgotten by men, but remembered by God. He didn't ask for authority. He simply sang his songs and guarded the sheep. But heaven had been listening. When the time came, his words brought down giants. That same spirit rests on you, the quiet assurance that what you carry is not ordinary. The sling in your hand may look small, but it carries the weight of obedience. And obedience always commands victory. As it is written in the book of Luke, chapter 10, verse 19, "Behold, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall by any means hurt you." Now, the authority spoken of here is not a posture of pride, but of peace. True authority never has to shout. It stands firm, knowing who sent it. When you walk into a room, peace itself should follow you, not because you are loud, but because heaven recognizes its own through you. This awakening changes how you move. You no longer chase recognition, you create resonance. You speak less, but mean more. People begin to notice that your words don't just land, they linger. They carry healing, conviction, clarity. You don't argue to prove truth, you release truth. And it proves itself. Sometimes this new authority will separate you from the familiar. Old patterns won't fit anymore. The voices that once guided you will grow quiet because God is teaching you to hear His tone directly. That isolation is not punishment, it's promotion. Every prophet, every messenger, every chosen vessel learns to recognize heaven's frequency in solitude. It is in that silence that you discover the courage to speak not from emotion, but from revelation. You may still doubt yourself. You may question whether you're worthy to carry such influence. But authority is not given to the flawless. It's entrusted to the faithful. You have been faithful in the small things. And heaven has noticed. The trembling in your chest is not fear. It is awakening power. Think of your spirit like a lion that has just remembered its roar. The roar doesn't ask for permission. It simply declares presence. Likewise, your authority isn't a request. It's a reminder to darkness that you were born with dominion. Every time you speak truth with love, you are reclaiming territory once lost to fear. This new awareness will affect how you pray. You will stop begging for what is already yours. You will begin to command what aligns with heaven's will. Prayer will no longer feel like pleading. It will feel like partnership. You will speak, and peace will move. You will declare, and light will respond. But remember this, authority without humility becomes noise. The more power you hold, the deeper your surrender must go. God trusts those who know how to kneel. That is the paradox of divine leadership. Your strength flows from your submission. In this awakening, you will start to recognize moments when heaven nudges you to speak into fear, into confusion, into chaos. And when you do, things will shift. You will notice that your words, once fragile, now carry the vibration of destiny. That is not coincidence. It is the manifestation of divine trust. So let this new authority settle gently on you. Don't rush to use it. Learn to rest in it. When the time comes, it will rise naturally like breath, like light, like truth that refuses to stay silent. You were never meant to whisper when heaven called you to declare. There is a sacred rhythm in the seasons of your becoming. After the awakening comes the separation. The separation season is not cruel, it is cleansing. It is heaven's way of clearing space around you so your roots can grow deeper and your light can burn purer. You will feel it first as distance, familiar faces fading, conversations growing quieter, dreams that no longer fit. It will ache. But that ache is evidence that you are being shifted. You will begin to see that not everyone can walk with you into the next dimension of purpose. Some were sent to your past, not your future. There is no hatred in this truth, only order. God is not removing people to punish you. He is protecting what He is building inside you. When He begins to separate, it means you have reached the edge of your current assignment. This is where many chosen souls struggle, because love often holds on tighter than wisdom. You will be tempted to chase what heaven is trying to release, but growth requires empty hands. You cannot receive a new season while clinging to an old one. Every ending you grieve is making room for something sacred to arrive. The prophet Hosea once spoke of this mystery of separation, and his words still echo through time. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak tenderly unto her. There it is again, the wilderness, that quiet and unfamiliar space. Not punishment, but preparation. It is in the wilderness that the noise dies and the divine whisper becomes clear. God calls you away, not to isolate you, but to reintroduce Himself to you. In the silence, He reminds you who you are, without titles, without applause, without the masks you wore to survive. In this season, you will learn that divine love is not always about addition. It is also about subtraction. Sometimes God loves you too much to let you stay surrounded by what dulls your flame. You'll begin to recognize that peace isn't the absence of people, it's the presence of alignment. When your circle grows smaller, your clarity grows louder. There was once a young woman who tried to bring everyone with her into her calling. She prayed harder, held tighter, and wept when they drifted away. One night, she dreamt she was climbing a mountain. Each time she reached for another hand, she lost her balance. Then she heard a voice say, "You can't rise while carrying what's meant to stay." When she woke, she finally let go, and in that release, she found peace that didn't need explanation. That is what heaven is doing for you now. The shaking is not rejection, it is rearrangement. The pruning is not loss, it is love in disguise. Every goodbye whispered in faith becomes a seed that blooms later as grace. As revealed in the Gospel of John, chapter 15, verse 2, every branch that bears fruit He prunes, that it may bring forth more fruit. And you are being pruned to bear more. The branches that once felt alive but now fall away were only meant to sustain you temporarily. The pruning hurts because you are attached, but what is being cut is not your destiny, only the distractions that cling to it. Now, let your heart breathe. Look around your life and notice what remains after the noise fades. These are your true foundations: peace, presence, and purpose. Everything else is scaffolding, meant only for construction, not permanence. When the pruning is complete, you will realize how light you have become. The burdens you thought you needed will no longer define you. The voices that once demanded your attention will lose their power. In their place, stillness will come, a stillness that hums with divine energy, like the hush before sunrise or the moment a butterfly escapes its cocoon. And in that stillness, you'll feel the invitation, not a command, but a whisper, the kind that doesn't pressure, only beckons. It says, if this word has touched something deep within you, let it ripple outward. So if you feel that quiet pull, don't resist it. Let your heart be the wind that carries this message forward. Press the like. Let the share be your way of passing light into another soul's hands. And subscribe only if your spirit hungers to stay near this fire. You are not obeying an instruction, you are joining a flow, letting grace move through you as naturally as breath, because every act of giving light multiplies it. And perhaps, through this small gesture, you are becoming the messenger heaven once sent someone else to be for you. You are not losing people, you are finding yourself. Night has always carried a strange stillness, hasn't it? It's in the silence between heartbeats that heaven moves the most. When the noise fades, when the world stops demanding your attention, that's when the midnight visitation happens. Not everyone experiences it the same way. It may come as a whisper, a dream, a sudden peace that has no explanation. But when it comes, you will know. The air feels heavier, time slows, and your soul feels watched, not by fear, but by love. This is the hour when God draws near to the weary. He doesn't knock loudly, he simply enters. While others sleep, heaven works. It has always been this way. In the scriptures, destinies were often spoken in the dark. Angels visited shepherds at night. Joseph dreamed at night. Paul received revelation in the night. The silence of midnight has always been heaven's chosen hour. You may have noticed how restlessness often grows strongest after midnight. That's not coincidence. It's a sign of stirring. The Spirit walks the corridors of your mind, tapping on the locked doors of your thoughts, asking permission to enter. When you finally stop scrolling, stop running, and listen, something sacred happens. The veil between the seen and unseen grows thin. You begin to sense what words can't hold. It is written in the book of Psalms, chapter 16, verse 7, I will bless the Lord who hath given me counsel. My reins also instruct me in the night seasons. Oh, there it is, night seasons. God doesn't just speak through daylight understanding, he speaks through darkness. 2. The night is not your enemy. It is his classroom. He uses stillness to teach lessons that daylight would distract you from. While the world sleeps, he rearranges the furniture of your soul. Imagine your heart as a room that's been too crowded with noise, voices of doubt, disappointment, and memory. When the Spirit enters, he turns off the lights of distraction and begins to clear the clutter. You might feel the ache of emptiness, but that emptiness is space being made for revelation. There was once a man who could never sleep through the night. He thought it was anxiety until one evening he decided to stop fighting it. Instead of turning on his phone, he sat in the dark and whispered, I'm listening. What followed was not a vision or a voice, but a weight of peace that wrapped around him like a blanket. That night, he finally understood what kept him awake wasn't worry. It was invitation. That's how heaven often speaks, not by volume, but by presence. It does not need to announce itself. It simply is. You feel it in your chest, like a soft glow spreading behind your ribs. You realize that every battle, every silence, every waiting season was leading to this moment of awareness that you were never walking alone. When the visitation comes, don't rush it. Don't demand to understand it. Let it linger. Sometimes the greatest revelations arrive not as answers, but as stillness. It is in that silence that the Spirit writes instructions you won't even need words to remember. Some will call this imagination. Let them. Faith has always looked foolish until it is fulfilled. The truth is, heaven's frequency is too high for human logic. Only the surrendered heart can catch its sound. You may feel warmth on your skin, a tingling in your palms, a sudden release of tears. That's how the body responds when the soul recognizes the nearness of God. The same presence that hovered over the waters in Genesis now hovers over you. When morning comes, you might not be able to describe what happened, but something within you will be different. Peace will replace panic. Clarity will replace confusion. You'll notice that old fears have lost their grip. The midnight meeting will have shifted your atmosphere. So, chosen one. When that moment comes, when your heart beats faster and the air feels holy, don't run. Lean in. Whisper back to heaven the simplest words you can manage. Say, I'm here, because sometimes that's all God needs to continue the conversation He started before time began. And when you finish reading this, if you feel that same gentle pull, the kind that stirs but doesn't rush you, mark this moment. Comment 222 below as a sign that you hear Him calling in your own midnight. Not as superstition, but as remembrance. It is a simple way of saying, I will stay awake for what heaven wants to reveal. End of free. Because not all awakenings happen in the morning. Some begin right here, in the quiet hours when the world is asleep, but heaven is wide awake, writing new stories in the hearts of those who dare to listen. The night has passed, but the fire remains. From stillness, you now step into movement. And from whispers, you rise into the battle cry of light. You were never chosen to simply survive. You were chosen to stand. The moment you awaken, darkness takes notice. The forces that once ignored you now tremble, because the one thing they fear has been reborn inside you: awareness. You know who you are, and that knowing carries power. Spiritual warfare doesn't always look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like clarity. When you finally understand who you are in the kingdom of light, every shadow begins to panic. The enemy's greatest weapon was never strength. It was confusion. If he can convince you to forget your identity, he can keep you silent. But now your voice has returned, forged by the flame, refined by silence, sealed by revelation. You are no longer the seeker. You are the sent one. Heaven doesn't just defend you, it deploys you. The day you stop running from darkness and start shining in it, the tide turns. Light does not argue with darkness, it simply appears. And everything hidden must retreat. That is your calling now, to walk as illumination. This battle isn't about flesh and blood, about enemies you can see. It's fought in decisions, in thoughts, in the unseen places where temptation whispers and faith answers. Every time you choose peace over panic, faith over fear, compassion over revenge, you win a war no one else sees. There's a story told of an old watchman who guarded a lighthouse on a stormy coast. Every night, ships depended on his light to guide them. But one evening, the oil ran low. The villagers told him to save what remained for the morning. Yet he refused. If I keep the light, he said, they will find the shore. If I let it die, they will find the rocks. And so he burned the last drop through the night. By dawn, 3 ships had survived. What should have destroyed them? That is who you are. Now, the keeper of the light. You may not always have abundance, but what you have is enough to illuminate someone else's darkness. Never underestimate the power of one steady flame in a storm. As it is written in the book of Ephesians, chapter 6, verse 12, "For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places." And you are not fighting alone, nor are you fighting without armor. Heaven has clothed you with unseen strength. Your faith is your shield. Your truth is your sword. Your humility is your crown. The battle you face is not meant to destroy you, but to reveal you. It shows you what's inside, what cannot be shaken, what cannot be stolen. In this realm of spiritual conflict, worship becomes your weapon. When you praise through pain, confusion loses its hold. When you speak gratitude in the middle of loss, light erupts. Even silence becomes an act of defiance. For peace is the loudest sound heaven ever taught. And when weariness creeps in, remember, light never fights to shine. It simply burns. You don't have to strive to prove your power. You simply need to remain connected to your source. The closer you stay to the heart of God, the brighter your glow becomes. There will be moments when you feel surrounded, but that's when the truth becomes visible. You are never outnumbered. Angels move at your side. The presence that stood with Daniel in the lion's den, with Esther before the king, with Elijah on the mountain, it stands with you now. Sometimes the fiercest warfare happens right before the greatest breakthrough. The darkness grows loud because it knows dawn is near. So when everything around you seems to shake, do not mistake it for defeat. It's just the sound of walls collapsing around the territory you are reclaiming. Hold steady. Keep your gaze on the horizon. Every breath of prayer is a spark. Every act of love, a sword, stroke of light. You may not see instant results, but heaven sees the balance tipping. Even a whisper of truth spoken in faith shakes foundations in realms unseen. And when you finally walk out of the battlefield, you won't look the same. The glow that surrounds you won't just be light, it will be proof. Proof that you stood your ground. Proof that you kept burning when everything tried to put you out. Proof that heaven equips those who refuse to bow to darkness. This is your battle cry, not of rage, but of radiant resolve. You will not hide your flame. You will walk into every shadow and bring dawn with you. The fire has refined you, and the battle has revealed you. Now comes a gentler revelation, the moment when heaven holds up its mirror and lets you see what it has seen all along. This is the mirror of heaven, where the reflection staring back at you is not the one shaped by time, mistakes, or fear. It is the version of you written in eternity before the world ever began, the image that carries divine resemblance. It's strange at first to recognize yourself without the weight of shame. You've grown so used to seeing your flaws magnified, your failures replayed, that it takes time for your eyes to adjust to the light. But this mirror doesn't reflect what the world calls worthy. It reveals what heaven calls chosen. Every scar glows here like gold threads woven into fabric, the evidence of battles that did not break you. You may wonder how to see through this mirror. It is not made of glass, it is made of grace. You don't look into it with your eyes, but with your spirit. It comes in quiet moments, when peace replaces striving, When you sense that the same hand that formed the stars is touching the deepest part of you, that is when reflection begins the unveiling of divine likeness. There was once a boy who carved his reflection into a piece of river stone. He spent days smoothing its surface, only to discover that the river kept changing it. One day, an old traveler told him, "You cannot see your face in moving water, only in stillness." The boy waited until the current calmed and saw his reflection perfectly. Only then did he understand the image was always there. The motion just hid it. So it is with your soul. The constant motion of life expectation, fear, noise distorts your reflection. Heaven invites you to stillness, not to silence you, but to let you see yourself clearly again. You were never unworthy. You were simply unsettled. As revealed in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 3, verse 18. But we all, with open face, beholding as in a glass the glory of the Lord, are changed into the same image from glory to glory, even as by the Spirit of the Lord. That is the essence of transformation. You become what you behold. The more you see the divine nature reflected within, the more it begins to radiate outward. The mirror of heaven doesn't flatter, it transforms. It shows you who you were created to be, and then begins to align your life to match that image. You will notice that shame can no longer find purchase in your heart. It may knock, but it cannot stay. You will no longer need validation from those who misread you. The reflection you carry within becomes your confirmation. Confidence replaces comparison, and grace becomes your garment. You start to understand that humility is not thinking less of yourself, it is thinking truthfully of yourself, as heaven does. In this mirror, you will see the traces of your Creator's fingerprints, the compassion in your voice, the courage in your silence, the resilience in your steps. These are divine traits, mirrored in human form. When you walk in them, you are walking as heaven's echo on earth. Sometimes, though, this mirror will challenge you. It won't let you stay small. It will remind you of promises you've postponed and dreams you've buried. It will call you higher, gently but firmly. The reflection it shows isn't just who you are, it's who you're still becoming. Heaven never stops polishing its mirrors. Every revelation is an invitation to rise. When you catch that glimpse of your true reflection, don't look away. The enemy will try to blur it with old memories. But remember, mirrors only lose clarity when they're covered in dust. Keep your soul clean with truth. Keep your gaze steady. Every time you choose forgiveness, humility, or faith, you wipe away another layer of distortion. One day, you will look into that mirror and realize you no longer see two faces. You see one, the human and the holy, the broken and the beautiful, perfectly intertwined. That is the destiny of every chosen one, to walk on earth as a living reflection of divine love. You will step away from the mirror, but it will not leave you. It will travel with you, not as glass, but as glow. Every person who meets your eyes will catch a glimpse of heaven staring back, and in that glow, the world will remember what light feels like again, because through you, heaven has chosen to remind creation of its own forgotten beauty. When heaven speaks your name, the universe listens. It isn't a sound that enters your ears. It's a vibration that awakens your entire being. This is the moment of divine recognition, when everything unseen begins to respond to who you truly are. Your name has always carried resonance, but now that resonance has been activated, heaven speaks, and creation answers. You may not hear it as a voice. It might come as a sudden confirmation, a sense that the right people are finding you at the right time, that paths are opening without effort. These aren't coincidences, they are echoes. When God whispers your name through eternity, reality rearranges itself to make room for you. There's a sacred weight to being recognized by heaven. It's not fame or spotlight, it's alignment. The same power that called stars into order now calls your purpose by name. Every time heaven says, "Arise," the atmosphere around you responds. Doors open, hearts soften, opportunities unfold. You start walking into rooms where your presence feels expected, as though the air has been waiting for you. When heaven speaks your name, it doesn't sound like the world pronouncing it. It sounds like truth calling you home. It carries the authority of promise. It reminds you of the covenant written before you were born, the one that says, "You are mine." No, as declared in the book of Isaiah, chapter 43, verse 1, "Fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine." That's the sound that breaks every label placed upon you. You are not what failure called you. You are not what fear named you. You are not what others misunderstood. When heaven calls you, all counterfeit names fall silent. Every false identity that tried to attach itself to you loses its grip. It's like hearing a melody you didn't know you'd forgotten. Somewhere in your soul, you recognize it. You've known this song since before you could speak. It's the rhythm of belonging. It's why, when you hear the voice of God deep within, your heart doesn't argue. It remembers. There was a man who lived his life trying to prove himself to everyone around him. He changed careers, relationships, even his faith, searching for validation. But one day, during prayer, he heard a voice, not loud, not frightening, but tender. It said only his name, Hefel Silant. Realizing that for the first time, he wasn't being asked to perform, he was being known. From that moment on, he stopped striving and started listening. Recognition changes posture. You walk differently when you know heaven recognizes you. You stop seeking permission to exist. You stop apologizing for the glow. You stop explaining why you've been chosen. When your name has been spoken in the courts of heaven, earthly approval becomes irrelevant. And yet, divine recognition always carries responsibility. When heaven calls your name, it's not just to affirm, it's to assign. There are people, places, and moments waiting for your obedience. You become a carrier of instruction. Your presence becomes prophetic. Even your silence begins to shift atmospheres. This is why humility must walk hand in hand with revelation. You don't need to announce what heaven has already confirmed. The ones meant to recognize you will feel it before they understand it. The light you carry will bear witness for you. So if you ever feel unseen again, remember this: heaven has already recorded your name. Angels move at its mention. Your identity is inscribed in the fabric of eternity. No earthly rejection can erase it. And now, before this section closes, take a breath and anchor this truth. If you sense something stirring a deep recognition, a quiet knowing, mark this moment as sacred. Comment, "I am known," below as a declaration, not for me, but for yourself. Because when you say those words, you agree with heaven's voice. You echo what has already been spoken over you. And in that agreement, Something within your spirit stands taller, brighter, freer. Heaven has called your name, and it will never stop echoing through every season of your becoming. When you write, "I am known," you are not claiming pride, you are accepting truth. You're acknowledging that heaven's awareness of you is not seasonal, it is eternal. To be known by God means you no longer need to chase understanding from people who cannot read your purpose. Those 3 words create alignment. They shift you from striving to resting, from proving to being. The moment you declare them, the atmosphere around you agrees. What was hidden begins to unfold. Favor recognizes your name and comes searching for you. So say it again quietly. I am known. Let it settle in your bones. Let it become your peace in chaos and your confidence in silence. You are recognized completely, continuously, and without condition. When recognition settles in your soul, transformation begins to bloom. You no longer walk as you once did, uncertain, hesitant, waiting for permission to shine. Now, a new weight rests upon your shoulders. It is not burden, it is beauty. This is the moment when you are mantled in glory. Heaven doesn't just call you, it clothes you. The same spirit that hovered over the deep now wraps you in light, purpose, and peace. Glory is not decoration, it is identification. It is heaven's way of saying, "This one carries my breath." It does not sparkle for attention, it radiates to reveal. You won't always see it, but others will. People will begin to sense peace in your presence, hope in your voice, courage in your silence. You have become a living altar, and glory is the flame that rests upon it. The ancient stories tell of such moments: Moses descending the mountain with his face shining, Elijah wrapped in a whirlwind of fire, Mary overshadowed by divine promise. In every story, glory came not to impress, but to empower. It comes to those who are willing to carry heaven's weight without seeking earth's applause. As written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1, "Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee." That is what is happening to you now. The mantle is descending not as fabric, but as flame. You might feel it as warmth around your spirit, or as stillness settling over your thoughts. The mantle of glory is subtle, yet undeniable. It is heaven saying, "You are ready to represent me." This new covering changes how you move. You no longer speak to be heard, you speak to heal. You no longer enter rooms searching for belonging, you bring belonging with you. You are clothed in something invisible yet tangible, something the world cannot counterfeit. The mantle doesn't erase your humanity, it enhances it. It doesn't remove your past, it redeems it. Every scar becomes a thread in the fabric of your anointing. The very things that once disqualified you now qualify you to comfort others. Glory transforms wounds into wisdom and pain into prophecy. There was once a quiet artist who used to hide her work, afraid it wasn't worthy. But one evening, while painting under dim light, she felt something shift. Her brush moved differently, guided by unseen hands. When she stepped back, she saw beauty far beyond her own skill. In that moment, she understood this was not just art, it was anointed expression. The mantle had rested on her craft. So it is with you. Whatever your gift words, compassion, vision, leadership, the mantle magnifies it. It takes what you already carry and infuses it with eternal weight. You become both instrument and melody, vessel, and voice. Glory doesn't compete, it completes. At times, you'll feel the tension between humility and radiance. You'll wonder, can I really carry something so holy? The answer is yes, but not by your strength. Glory never asks you to perform. It invites you to yield. It's not about effort, it's about availability. You may not realize it, but heaven has already begun orchestrating encounters around your obedience. Someone will cross your path and feel lighter after meeting you. Someone will hear your words and feel hope return. The mantle doesn't need a stage. It finds its purpose in simple faithfulness. When glory rests on you, your life becomes a mirror of the divine. You'll begin to notice how your surroundings shift. Peace enters rooms where you walk. Grace softens conversations. Even your silence starts carrying weight. You've become the meeting point between the eternal and the earthly, the embodiment of heaven's nearness. And somewhere deep in your spirit, you'll sense that this moment deserves to be remembered, not captured, but cherished. When heaven clothes you, the most fitting response is reverence and gratitude. If you feel that gentle stirring, if something inside you whispers, "This light belongs to me," then respond not with words, but with reflection. Let your heart press the like as a silent nod to heaven. Let your soul share this message as light passing through you. And subscribe only if your spirit feels called to stay near the glow. You are not obeying an instruction. You are honoring an encounter. Because glory cannot be forced, it can only be received. And when it rests on you, it never truly leaves. When dawn arrives tomorrow, your reflection may look the same, but creation will recognize the difference. You will carry that invisible fire in your eyes, the unmistakable sign that you have been touched by something sacred. You are not merely living anymore. You are shining. When the mantle settles upon you, it doesn't just illuminate what is, it begins to dismantle what is no longer needed. The presence of glory exposes the barriers that have kept you from fullness. You start to see clearly where you have been delayed, not because heaven withheld from you, but because divine timing was at work. This is the moment of the breaking of delay, a sacred collision between what was promised and what is finally ready to manifest. Delays are not denials. They are divine pauses. They are heaven's way of aligning the unseen before the seen unfolds. You might think of them as storms that force you to anchor deeper, winds that strip off what would not survive the journey ahead. When God delays, He is not punishing you. He is protecting what you carry. For years, you may have prayed for breakthrough, believing that silence meant rejection. Yet, in truth, silence was gestation. What you called nothing happening was heaven working underground. Seeds do not shout while they grow, they simply expand in secret. Every unseen root, every hidden preparation was necessary to sustain what is now rising. As written in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, though it tarry. Wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not delay." There is a rhythm to fulfillment, an unseen choreography between patience and promise. When your heart finally aligns with heaven's pace, things that once resisted you begin to flow toward you. The obstacles that looked immovable start to dissolve quietly. It doesn't happen with thunder, it happens with alignment. The breaking of delay is often gentle, almost unnoticeable at first. You might wake one morning and sense something different in the air. The weight that once pressed your chest feels lighter. The prayers that used to feel heavy suddenly feel effortless. Conversations open doors you didn't knock on. People begin to appear. People who carry pieces of your next chapter. That's how heaven works, quietly, precisely, faithfully. There was once a man who waited nearly a decade for a promise. Every time he thought the door was about to open, it closed again. But one day, without a sign or warning, everything shifted. A single opportunity appeared, small and unexpected. Within months, everything he had prayed for unfolded effortlessly. Later, he said, "It didn't take 10 years for it to happen. It took 10 years for me to be ready." That is the mystery of delay. It refines the vessel. God never withholds out of cruelty. He waits until you can carry the blessing without letting it break you. Delay matures gratitude, deepens wisdom, and teaches discernment. It transforms what you desire into what you can truly steward. In this breaking, you'll feel the subtle cracking of old patterns. Cycles of frustration that once repeated endlessly will begin to unravel. Relationships that once drained you will quietly fade. Habits that once ruled you will lose their pull. The invisible barriers that held you still will simply no longer fit your vibration. Sometimes, you will not even notice the breakthrough while it's happening. It won't feel like fireworks. It will feel like flow, like a river thawing after winter. Grace begins to move again. The current of favor, once frozen by fear, now carries you forward effortlessly. You will realize that what you once chased is now drawn to you, not because you demanded it, but because your frequency has changed. You have learned to trust the pause, to stay still while heaven rearranges, and that trust becomes magnetic. This is how the delay breaks, not through striving, but through surrender. The walls that resisted you begin to fall because you no longer push against them. You've learned to flow with divine momentum instead of fighting it. When God moves, He does not rush. He redeems every lost year, every missed opportunity. Every unanswered prayer becomes woven into something larger. You will stand one day, looking back, realizing that nothing was wasted, not one tear, not one delay. And when that realization comes, peace will flood your heart, not the peace of understanding, but the peace of trust, the kind that doesn't need to know how anymore, only who. The season of waiting has fulfilled its purpose. You are stepping into a rhythm where time bends to obedience. What used to take years will now take moments. What was once withheld has ripened. This is not just your moment, it is heaven's timing, intersecting with your readiness. The waiting has ended. The flow has begun. You no longer chase what belongs to you. It finds you naturally, easily, inevitably. For delay was never your enemy, it was your teacher. And the lesson is now complete. The air feels different now, doesn't it? There is a calm precision in the way things begin to align, as if invisible threads are finally weaving themselves into their rightful pattern. This is divine alignment, the season when heaven begins to fit everything into place. The people, the timing, the opportunities, the peace, all of it starts finding its order. What once felt fragmented now feels purposeful. Alignment doesn't mean everything suddenly becomes easy. It means everything finally makes sense. You begin to recognize why certain doors never opened, why certain prayers seemed unanswered, why some connections faded. What once hurt now holds meaning. What once confused you now carries clarity. The scattered pieces of your story are being arranged into a masterpiece, and you can finally see the pattern that pain once obscured. It begins subtly. You wake up one morning with unusual peace. You look at situations that once terrified you and feel no fear. That's the first sign of alignment, the inner world shifting before the outer follows. Heaven always moves inward first. When your thoughts, emotions, and spirit align with divine truth, reality catches up, as revealed in the book of Romans, chapter 8, verse 28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are the called according to his purpose. Enderall. This is not poetic optimism, it is spiritual law. When alignment begins, resistance loses power. Things that once drained you no longer affect you the same way. You move differently, breathe differently, speak differently. There's a quiet knowing that you are exactly where you need to be. There was a woman who used to rush through every season of her life, terrified that she was falling behind. Every delay felt like punishment. Every silence felt like failure. But one day, she stopped. She took a single deep breath and said, "If this is where I am, then this is where God is." From that moment, everything changed. The moment she surrendered to divine order, the current began to carry her. Doors opened she hadn't knocked on. People arrived without invitations. Alignment had begun its gentle orchestration. You may feel that same current stirring now. It is the sense that nothing around you is random. Every encounter is purposeful. Every detour heeds direction. Every heartbreak carried hidden instruction. When you begin to perceive through heaven's eyes, chaos becomes choreography. Divine alignment teaches you trust, not blind faith, but confident awareness. You start to see that timing is not the enemy of destiny, what you call delay. Heaven calls preparation. You realize that God's pace is not slow, it is strategic. Alignment also exposes what cannot stay. Just as planets orbit in precise order, anything that refuses divine gravity will naturally fall away. This isn't loss, it's balance. When something leaves your life in alignment, it's not rejection, it's release. Heaven only allows what supports your purpose to remain. There will be moments when alignment feels uncomfortable. The old self resists the new rhythm, but that discomfort is proof that you're shifting dimensions. The more you yield, the smoother the transition. The spirit never forces, it flows. Imagine yourself as a compass needle that's been spinning wildly. For years you've chased direction, tried to control outcomes, tried to manufacture peace. Then, suddenly, the hand of God hovers above you and the needle steadies. That stillness isn't emptiness, it's calibration. The moment your inner life aligns with heaven's coordinates, you stop wandering. And here is the wonder of alignment: it draws what belongs to you effortlessly, not because you chase it, but because like attracts like. The frequency of your obedience resonates with the promises assigned to your name. The right people, opportunities, and revelations are magnetized toward your presence. When you walk in divine alignment, even your mistakes are redeemed. Every misstep becomes a message. Every wrong turn becomes part of the right direction. Nothing is wasted under divine order. You'll find yourself standing in places you never planned, yet realizing you were always meant to be there. You'll notice words leaving your mouth that weren't rehearsed, but carry weight. You'll feel the nearness of heaven in everyday details, small confirmations that whisper, "Yes, this is the way." So as you read these words, let your heart recognize the signs, the ease, the flow, the timing that suddenly feels perfect. That is alignment speaking through your spirit. And if this resonates, if something within you recognizes the sound of things clicking into place, then mark this moment in faith. Comment 111 below as a declaration that you are stepping fully into divine alignment, not a superstition, but a symbol. It means, I am in tune with the rhythm of heaven. Then, because when alignment begins, resistance ends. And what was once withheld is now released, not by striving, but by surrender. The current has caught you. Let it carry you home. There is a quiet authority that comes after alignment, a strength that no longer needs to announce itself. It doesn't shout, it simply is. You've walked through fire, through wilderness, through waiting, and through silence. Now you stand in a place where heaven trusts your words. This is the season of authority over darkness, not the loud kind that demands attention, but the calm certainty that light does not beg permission to shine. You might not even notice when the shift first happens. You'll just realize one day that fear doesn't sound the same. The things that used to unsettle you now dissolve under your breath. You've stopped reacting and started responding. You've stopped pleading and started commanding. Not from ego, but from awareness. You have learned that spiritual authority is not control. It's alignment expressed as confidence. Authority is not something heaven gives to the proud. It's entrusted to the pure in heart. It flows through humility, because humility is the only vessel strong enough to hold power without spilling it. The most dangerous thing to darkness is a soul that knows it is already victorious. The first battleground of authority is always internal. Before you can command peace around you, you must host it within. Before you can speak freedom into others, you must choose it for yourself. Every lie that once held you captive becomes a place where truth now lives. Every weakness that once humiliated you becomes a weapon forged in grace. As declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 16, verse 19, "And I will give unto thee the keys of the kingdom of heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt bind on earth shall be bound in heaven, and whatsoever thou shalt loose on earth shall be loosed in heaven." Those keys are not metal, they are understanding. Each revelation you've received, each moment of surrender, each act of obedience has formed one. Authority is not about noise, it's about knowing which key fits which lock. You don't fight the same way anymore. You move with wisdom. You know when to speak and when to stay silent, when to confront and when to bless. There was once a woman who learned this kind of authority. For years, she fought with words, with fear, with exhaustion. Then one day, she stopped. She knelt, breathed deeply, and whispered, "Peace, stay." The storm didn't vanish immediately, but something shifted. The storm was no longer inside her. She had learned the secret: control the atmosphere within, and the outer world must respond. That's how divine authority functions. It begins where peace begins. It doesn't seek to dominate, it restores order. When you walk in it, chaos loses form. You become a stabilizing force. Your presence alone becomes instruction to confusion. Sometimes The power will move through your words. Other times, through your silence. There will be moments when you'll feel prompted to speak truth into tension, and the atmosphere will shift like clouds parting after rain. Other times, your restraint will speak louder than rebuke. Authority doesn't always need a voice. It often arrives as peace that refuses to be disturbed. You'll also notice that darkness will test you not to win, but to see if you remember who you are. The temptation to doubt, to fear, to shrink back will return in smaller forms, disguised as familiar emotions. But now, you know the pattern. You've seen behind the curtain. And once you see, you can't unsee. So when fear whispers, you won't argue, you'll smile. When doubt presses, you'll answer with truth. When heaviness comes, you'll worship instead of worry. That's authority in action, responding with light when darkness expects reaction. You may think your influence is small, but in the unseen realm, every act of faith echoes. A whispered prayer becomes thunder. A simple thank you becomes a weapon. Even resting becomes warfare when it's done in trust. This is the paradox of divine power. It feels weightless yet unshakable, invisible yet undeniable. You are not wielding energy, you are embodying order. You carry heaven's structure wherever you go. So walk gently, yet confidently. Every step you take leaves prints that angels recognize as territory claimed. You are not fighting for victory anymore. You are enforcing it. Darkness can no longer touch what belongs to light. You have become a walking decree, an instrument of restoration, a carrier of clarity, a reminder that heaven still reigns on earth. And from this day forward, the atmosphere will respond to your presence, not because you strive, but because heaven recognizes its own through you. Wherever you go, light follows and darkness remembers your name. Every battle, every silence, every surrender has brought you to a sacred crossroads, the place where destiny and decision meet. This is the moment of crowns and crossroads, the season where heaven offers both the reward and the responsibility. A crown is never given without a choice. Every elevation requires discernment. For every step upward narrows the path before you. The crown is not made of gold or jewels. It is formed from obedience. It is woven with strands of endurance, humility, and unwavering faith. You do not earn it by perfection. You receive it by perseverance. A crown is the visible symbol of invisible victory, proof that you endured what tried to erase you. Yet the true test comes after the crown is placed, when you must decide how to carry it. Every chosen one eventually reaches this threshold. God brings them to a place where comfort and calling stand on opposite sides. To choose comfort is to preserve the familiar. To choose calling is to walk into mystery. One path offers rest without growth, the other, risk, wrapped in revelation. The crown waits for those who dare to keep walking when it would be easier to sit down. There was once a young prophet who prayed for anointing, but feared the weight of leadership. When the moment came, he hesitated at the door of his next season. Then an elder told him, "Crowns are not heavy, unready hearts make them so." Those words became his turning point. He stepped forward trembling, and heaven met him halfway. The burden turned to blessing the moment he decided to trust. As recorded in the book of James, chapter 1, verse 12, "Blessed is the one who perseveres under trial, because having stood the test, That person will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Oh, that is the promise that greets you now. The test was never about endurance alone. It was about proving love. You didn't keep believing because it was easy. You kept believing because your heart refused to let go of God's hand. That loyalty, forged in pain, has become your crown. But crowns also carry crossroads. With elevation comes exposure. You will find that visibility invites both admiration and misunderstanding. Some will see the glow and call it pride. Others will sense the weight and call it wisdom. Do not waste energy defending your calling. Let your fruit speak. The crown does not need to justify itself. It shines because it was forged in fire. At this crossroads, heaven will whisper, "Now lead with love." That is the higher call. The crown is not authority for domination. It's permission for compassion. You are crowned not to rule over, but to lift others up, to walk among those still struggling and remind them that glory doesn't exclude pain, it transforms it. Every decision at this stage will echo louder than before. What you choose in this season will shape more than your story. It will influence those assigned to your light. Every choice becomes legacy. So choose gently, wisely, prayerfully. Let humility steady the crown on your head. There is also a danger here, the temptation to cling to what the crown brings rather than who it represents. Many begin to worship the mantle instead of the master. Guard your heart. The crown is not the destination, it is the beginning of responsibility. It is the weight that teaches balance, the honor that demands surrender. When you stand at the crossroads, remember this: every yes to God births 1,000 unseen blessings. Every act of obedience ripples into eternity. The path of calling may be narrow, but it is lined with light. And though it may cost you everything familiar, it will give you everything eternal. So, pause for a moment at this intersection of glory and choice. Feel the weight of the crown steady, sacred, unmistakable. The path behind you is gone. The path ahead glows with purpose. You are not the same one who began this journey. Lift your eyes. Take your next step. Not in pride, but in peace. For every crown shines brightest when carried with humility, and every crossroads, though uncertain, is simply heaven's way of saying it's time. Every step you take from here will echo with purpose. You are not wandering anymore. You are walking a path written before your birth. The crossroads are no longer about confusion, they are about confirmation. Every turn ahead has already been marked by grace. So, carry your crown lightly and your heart openly. The journey will test you again. But this time, you will walk with understanding. You are not choosing blindly, you are choosing as one who knows the way. When one chosen one rises, heaven smiles, but when many awaken together, heaven moves. What you have walked through was never meant for you alone. Every scar, every revelation, every piece of wisdom earned through fire has been preparing you for this moment. The gathering of the marked ones, across nations, across languages, across generations. Others like you are beginning to stir. Souls that have felt unseen, unheard, and misunderstood are now recognizing the same light flickering within. It begins subtly, a word here, a dream there, a message that feels too personal to be coincidence. One by one, the marked begin to find each other. There is a sound rising, soft yet steady, like wind moving through 1,000 candles. Each flame alone is fragile, but together they become a wildfire of purpose. This gathering is not physical, it's spiritual. It transcends distance and platform. It's happening in hearts that choose to answer the same call. Heaven is orchestrating a reunion of spirits who once walked alone. You are part of a constellation of souls, each star carrying light for a different corner of darkness. As written in the book of Hebrews, chapter 10, verse 24 and 25. And let us consider one another, to provoke unto love and to good works, not forsaking the assembling of ourselves together. The gathering is not about building crowds, it's about building courage. It's about realizing that the same Spirit working in you is working in countless others. You were never meant to carry your calling in isolation. Every chosen one is a verse in heaven's song, and when those verses meet, the melody multiplies. There's an ancient story of two torchbearers who walked miles apart, unaware of each other. One night, as the winds grew violent, both nearly lost their flames. Just before dawn, they saw light flickering in the distance. They ran toward each other, shielding both torches beneath the same flame. That's what's happening now. Heaven is causing lights to meet lights so that no one burns alone. This unity does not erase individuality, it amplifies it. Each chosen one carries a different frequency of grace. When combined, those frequencies harmonize into a symphony that the world cannot ignore. You may never meet them face to face, but your obedience strengthens theirs. Your story gives someone else permission to hope again. The gathering also carries responsibility. When the marked come together, the weight of heaven increases. The more connected you become to purpose, the more you must guard your purity, humility, and peace. Glory shared becomes glory multiplied, but pride divides it instantly. The call now is not just to shine, it's to sustain the light. You will start to sense heaven-weaving connections, unexpected messages, familiar souls resurfacing, words that confirm what your heart already knew. Don't dismiss them as random. Destiny speaks in patterns. When you feel that spark of recognition, know that you are standing in the middle of prophecy fulfilled. And as you witness this movement grow, remember, unity is never forced. It's felt. You don't build it with effort, you nurture it with authenticity. Every honest word, every kind gesture, every truth spoken in love is part of heaven's architecture. Together, the marked ones are constructing something invisible yet eternal, a sanctuary of light that will outlast all noise. If your heart feels the resonance of these words, if something in you says, "I've seen this flame before," then let your spirit answer quietly. Press the like as a ripple of recognition. Share this message as the meeting of torches, and subscribe only if your soul longs to remain among those who carry fire. And if your spirit feels seen among these words, leave a comment whispering, "I carry the flame." Now it will be a simple ember of connection, one spark reaching another across the distance. These aren't clicks or gestures, they're symbols. Each one is a lantern lifted into the night, guiding another traveler home. When you respond in this way, you're not supporting a voice, you're sustaining a movement. You're saying, "I see the others. I am part of the light." Because this gathering isn't about belonging to something new, it's about remembering what you've always been part of. The marked ones have always existed. This is simply the hour when their flames align. So let your heart stay open, your light stay steady, and your spirit stay ready. The gathering has begun, and heaven is writing your name among those who answered the call. And as your name is written, the heavens shimmer in agreement. The constellation of the chosen grows brighter, each soul a flame, each flame a promise that darkness will never prevail again. Before the final unveiling, there comes a moment when heaven invites you into one last purification, a sacred cleansing that feels both tender and fierce. This is the final purge, where everything that cannot enter the next realm of your purpose is lovingly burned away. It is not punishment, it is purification. You are not being stripped, you are being streamlined for destiny. At this stage, the process is no longer external. It doesn't touch your possessions or your surroundings. It reaches deeper into the hidden corners of the heart. The purge happens in whispers, in quiet realizations, in tears that no longer carry pain but release. Heaven begins to separate even your intentions, dividing what was born of striving from what was born of faith. The purge begins with a question whispered in your spirit. What still holds you that is not holy? Not holy meaning perfect, but pure, untainted by fear, pride, or control. It may reveal subtle attachments, the need to be understood, the craving for recognition, the fear of being forgotten. God is not angry about these things. He is gentle. He invites you to surrender them so your spirit can breathe freely again. As spoken in the book of Malachi, chapter 3, verse 2, "For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap. He shall sit as refiner and purifier of silver." This is what the purge feels like. A refining presence sitting beside you, not leaving, not rushing, watching until the reflection becomes clear. When silver is purified, the refiner never steps away. He waits until he can see his face in the molten metal. That is what heaven is doing with you. At times, the purge feels like silence, like heaven has stepped back. But in truth, that is when he's closest. You are being melted into transparency, until all that remains is light. You'll notice old fears resurface, not to harm you, but to show you how powerless they've become. You'll feel the weight of old wounds lift up, not because you forgot them, but because they no longer define you. There was once a man who thought he had completed his transformation. He had endured storms, tasted peace, and carried purpose. Yet one night in prayer, he heard a whisper, "There is still something you are guarding." For days, he wrestled until he realized it was his pride, the quiet desire to be known as strong. When he laid that down, tears flowed freely, and he felt lighter than he ever had before. The next day, opportunities opened effortlessly. The purge had prepared him for release. That's the beauty of this stage. It refines you without destroying you. What leaves your life now is not loss, it's liberation. God doesn't take to harm, he removes to heal. He doesn't expose to shame, he reveals to restore. You may feel moments of deep introspection, where memories resurface like waves. Don't resist them, let them pass through. Each wave carries away residue from the past. You are being made clean, not just forgiven, but free. You'll notice subtle changes in your desires. The things that once fascinated you lose appeal. The conversations that once drained you no longer interest you. You begin craving simplicity, purity in thought, peace in routine, truth in every interaction. That's how you know the purge is nearly complete. You are returning to essence, to the quiet confidence of your original design. It is a sacred undoing. Heaven removes layer after layer until only love remains. No fear, no pretense, no striving, just presence. You will find yourself waking up lighter, breathing deeper, smiling without reason. That is the sign. When joy no longer needs a cause, the heart is clean. Sometimes, the purge requires solitude, not isolation, but sacred aloneness, the kind where you can hear your own heartbeat echo heaven's rhythm. In those quiet hours, you'll feel divine surgery, gentle, precise, transforming. And though it feels like an ending, it is really the doorway to your becoming. The purge is the bridge between preparation and manifestation. When the refining is done, you will find that nothing external has changed. Yet everything feels new. The world hasn't shifted, you have. This is how heaven polishes its chosen vessels, through stillness, through surrender, through subtle, invisible grâce. The purge doesn't announce completion, it reveals it. You'll simply wake up one morning, feel peace instead of pressure, and realize you've crossed the threshold. No more resistance, no more pretending, no more weight. Only clarity, only calm, only light. You've been purified for purpose. And the next step, your full radiance is closer than you think. And now, after the refining and the silence, after the waiting and the awakening, comes the moment. Creation has been holding its breath for the final unveiling. This is the moment when you no longer reach for the light because you have become it. This is becoming the radiant one, the culmination of every whisper, every wound, and every wonder you have lived through. You were never evolving toward power, you were unfolding toward remembrance. From the beginning, light has been your native language. Before pain taught you fear, before experience taught you doubt, you were pure illumination, unashamed, unbroken, unfiltered. The journey was never about adding something new. It was about stripping away what you were never meant to carry so that what is eternal in you could emerge without hindrance. The divine image, hidden beneath layers of survival, now stands unveiled. The radiant one does not walk above others, but among them, hands open, eyes clear, heart steady. This transformation is not about dominance or perfection. It is about peace. You are no longer fighting for identity or acceptance. You are resting in certainty. The battle between who you were and who you are is over, and peace has won, as revealed in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 5, verse 14. Ye are the light of the world. A city that is set on a hill cannot be hid. Einto, that is what you have become, the hilltop light. The city others look toward when they lose their way. The radiant one is not a role you play. It is the nature you embody when every shadow inside has been transformed into understanding. You'll begin to notice that your presence alone starts to change spaces. People will calm around you without knowing why. Hope will rise in conversations you barely speak into. It's not because you've become more powerful, it's because you've become transparent. The light now flows through you without obstruction. There's a quiet majesty to this new way of being. You won't feel the need to explain your peace or defend your joy. You've seen too much of heaven to return to fear. What once drained you now inspires compassion. What once frightened you now awakens wisdom. You don't just survive in the world, you sanctify it by existing within it. There was once an elder who spent decades in solitude, seeking enlightenment. When he finally returned to the village, people noticed something different. He no longer taught with words, but with presence. Even when silent, peace radiated from him like warmth from sunlight. When asked what had changed, he smiled and said, "I stopped trying to shine. I remembered I already was." None. That is your revelation too. You were never meant to chase the light, you were designed to carry it. And now that you've become aware of it, the whole creation responds. You'll find that favor flows toward you not because you seek it, but because it recognizes you as kin. Everything in creation bends toward its source, and light attracts light. The radiant one lives differently. You no longer rush. You move with divine rhythm. You no longer react. You respond. You no longer see the world as an enemy, but as a canvas waiting for kindness. Every word you speak becomes seed. Every action, a prayer. Even your stillness becomes a sanctuary. You will still face storms, but they will not define you. Light does not fear the storm. It reveals the path through it. You will still encounter darkness, but you will no longer call it enemy. You will call it assignment. The places that once intimidated you are now the very territories you were born to illuminate. This radiance doesn't need witnesses. It seeks transformation. You become a living reminder that redemption is possible, that hope is real, that heaven still breathes through human hearts. You will walk through ordinary days carrying extraordinary awareness, finding holiness in the mundane, glory in the simplest gestures of grace. And when the world looks at you and wonders what changed, you will smile not out of pride, but peace, and say, "I finally remembered who I am." The night is over. The light has come, and you are its embodiment. Now the heavens stand still for a breath, watching you step fully into what you were always meant to be. Every trial, every silence, every season has found its meaning here. You are no longer becoming, you simply are. Walk forward, radiant one, not as a seeker, but as a signal. Let your light be language, your peace be power, your love be proof. The story is complete, yet its glow will never end. And now, chosen one, the story comes full circle. 17 chapters of becoming, of silence, of surrender, of revelation, have brought you here. You've walked through shadow and sunlight alike, and now you stand as proof that heaven never wastes a single tear. The voice that once trembled now carries harmony. The hands that once reached upward in desperation now rise in peace. You have become both the prayer and the answer. This is not the end, it's the echo. The words you've read were not merely written for you, they were written through you. Every line was a mirror, every pause a doorway. The journey continues now, not on these pages, but within your life. You are no longer the listener, you are the message in motion. And yet, before you step forward, pause here for a heartbeat. Let gratitude gather quietly in your chest. Think of how far you've come, of the fires that refined you, and the grace that rebuilt you. This pause isn't goodbye, it's a seal, a gentle imprint that says, "You made it." If these words have been a mirror to your own soul, let your response be simple and sincere. Press the like not as approval, but as gratitude, a silent nod to heaven for finding you here. Share this message, as an act of light, letting it travel where your voice cannot. And subscribe only if your heart desires to stay connected to this river of revelation. And when you're ready, leave one final mark upon this story. Comment, "I am light," not for recognition, but as a declaration that you have seen yourself clearly at last. Let it be your signature at the end of this divine dialogue, your way of saying, "I choose to shine," because this story does not belong to one voice. It belongs to every radiant soul who carries the fire forward. The flame that found you here was never meant to stay confined. It was meant to multiply. So go now, not as a follower, but as a torchbearer. Carry this glow into every shadowed place, and let the world remember what light feels like again. You are seen. You are sealed. You are sent.